folks, it's George Cottage from my favorite backyard, which is my cottage on the Medway River that we built about 27 years ago and are still building. So from this lovely location compared to my lovely backyard, I wanted to share with you the 4 C's. And the 4 C's are equally applicable to advice for your children as it is appropriate, I think, reasonable support and information for managing airway or any other resuscitation environment. And these are the 4 C's of success. And I'm going to walk around and I'll show you my place as we do it. So in the background you see our cottage. We're about 3 kilometers on the woods in the Medway River. So the first C is the one that gets the most attention, and it's competence. So most educational programs focus on competence. That's our goal, is to make sure that learners ultimately get out there and are able to perform the way we expect them to. And this is an important difference, actually, an important point to comment on. Competence is something that's measurable. It's usually something that's part of an evaluation, as part of a program. And that's very different from performance. Performance is what happens in real life. So really, even though I talk about the first C being competence, it's really performance, because I don't really care how you do. When you're doing an exam, I care how you do when you're managing an airway in front of you. So how do we ensure competence? All kinds of pearls, and the last thing I'm going to do is in 5 minutes is try to explain that, because I don't really have a great answer. But one thing's important to appreciate, and this pertains to the airway, or managing the airways, that numbers do matter. And there'll be a lot of people that are vehemently disagree with this. But you know, whether you do 5 airways, 20 or 100, it obviously makes a difference. Is there a magic number for each skill? No, because there are obviously other factors that are at play, such as the certain trait abilities that people have, and that will be variable from one person to another. But you have to have a deliberate program. You have to make sure that they have feedback to know when they're doing the wrong thing as well as the right thing, and they need to be able to practice N. And again, that N is up for debate. Many people quote Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours, and yes, there's nothing magical about 10,000 hours, and many people have debunked that theory, but the point is still valid, that numbers do matter. The other thing that's really crucial from a competence point of view is overlearning. So you don't just achieve a measured level of competence for airway management. You have to go above and beyond that. And the reason why that's important is that the decay will take longer, and then the slope for getting good again is more favorable in the future if you overlearn. So overlearning is an important piece. So numbers matter. Overlearning is important. So that's the first C, competence. Obviously much more complex than that. The second C is context. And this is one that people don't often appreciate. It's the common sense. It's you can be very good at performing an airway, a surgical airway, but if it's done for the wrong reason, in the wrong circumstance, then the patient's not going to have a good outcome. And we've all had that experience, that people might be very good at procedure X, Y, or Z, but they really quite can't figure out what's the appropriate circumstance and context. So you can be very good at performing an amputation, but if it's done on the wrong leg or for the wrong reason, the patient's not going to do so well. Bad example, but I think you appreciate the point. The third C is confidence, and confidence is critical. Again, you can be very competent in managing an airway or with your resuscitation skills. You can appreciate context, but if you don't have that confidence to carry that confidence in the room, people aren't going to be able to follow you. And it's critical that you do carry that. And this is a tough one because it's difficult to teach. Most of the time, they're linked to the other things. In other words, the more competent you are, the more confidence you're going to have. The more you appreciate context with time and experience, again, the more confidence you're going to have. But confidence matters. In the same way, overconfidence can be an issue, right? So patients or people that are very confident in the room, and take over the room, and people want to follow them. But again, if they're not very competent or they don't appreciate context, the patient's not going to do well. An important study that we've commented on before, teaching practitioners what's the right number for learning skill X. And skill X in this situation was intubation, and one group was taught with 5, one group was taught with 10 tubes, and the other group was taught with 15. And who felt the most confident with their skill? And it's the group that did 5. And why? Because they hadn't run into difficulty. They hadn't had that anti-fragile experience that makes them good. So confidence. The last one is, to me, the most important one, and it's conscientiousness. And conscientiousness is 2 things. One, it's having an appropriate work ethic. And secondly, it's working ethically, and they're very different things. So having a good work ethic, to me, is critical. I'll take a resident with a great work ethic over a resident who is the top of his class any day, because we're not rocket scientists or the engineers of the world. What we want people to do is obviously be bright, but be able to work hard, and everything else will often happen from that. And as I said, the second part of conscientiousness is having an appropriate work ethic. Is working ethically, and of course, we need to work ethically, but believe it or not, sometimes this slips between the cracks. And I'll use the example, it's now July. I don't like July in our emergency department because we have people who are medical students 3 weeks ago now who are neurosurgery consultants. And this was 1 or 2 years ago in July. I do all my own reductions for Colles fractures, but this was a Smith's fracture, and the patient, it was comminuted and clearly had to have surgery. They were splinted. Ortho was consulted, and I saw a PGY1 looking up on Wikipedia how to reduce a Smith's fracture. And so we have to appreciate the fact that we have to do the right thing for the patient. And sometimes the right thing means that you're going to piss somebody off. You're going to piss off a staff person or a senior resident because you're going to have to ask them, what should I do in this situation? And it might be 2 o'clock in the morning, or you're going to ask a radiologist for their input. But sometimes doing the right thing is going to piss people off, but you have to keep that in mind and work ethically. So those are the 4 C's from the lovely Medway River. This is my cottage in the background. I've got a fire going, and I'm going to get back to that fire. It's gin and tonic time. Bye from the Medway.